Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Jason back at it again with another Geography Now video. This time, guys, we have Sri Lanka. Now, I do apologize for the uploading schedule. It's been lacking. It's back to 2 weeks at a time. I do apologize. I promise you, try to upload 2 videos. Two people requested, but I haven't got the time to do it. So, yes, that may be it. Because I'm going to leave on the 31st of May, so probably going to be those videos. But with other videos, there might be me in the video, in this setup still. Because, I'm like halfway or like part of the big project. I don't know, but still, I do apologize for the uploading schedule. I've just been here in a foreign country. Yeah, I'm still here, guys. Like still a window right there. So, yeah. So anyways, guys, we're gonna stop talking and just get reacting to this 30-minute video, almost 31. But it's good. Sri Lanka. What I know about Sri Lanka is that they had a civil war. I feel like I got like the feeling that they were part of the British India, but I don't know. So anyways, that's enough of me talking. I'm gonna be reacting to this video in 3, 2, 1, go.
The Pearl of the Indian Ocean, the Teardrop of India, the Isle of Dharma, Ceylon, Taprobana, Serendip, and Mumudi Chola Mandalaman. To the Tamil, it's Ilankai. To the Sinhalese, it's the one you've probably heard, Sri Lanka. This place has had so many names, and today it goes by the next country up here on Geography Now.
Alright, I saw what you did there, but...
Hey everybody, I'm your host Barbs. Get a Geography Now mug and Geography Now shirt at geographynow.com. It's not selling out if it's my brand. Few countries on Earth have such a small size with a massive ancient backstory that predates the invention of paper. And as you guys know, I love having people from the countries in the country episode. Today's guest star is going to be Janil.
What happened? Sri Lanka?
First of all, what is this you got going on?
This is actually, so if I were to wear this shirt in white and wear my white sarong, that would have considered the national outfit for Sri Lanka. But I had to spice it up, man, you know.
Clearly,
we matching.
Yeah.
We matching.
All right, Janil, very quickly, what are some things you think the whole world should know about Sri Lanka?
We have the most prettiest girls on earth. Check. And prettiest guys too. You see this. Hospitality it's at like 308%.
Yes.
And hey, lastly, we are not
difference.
Indian.
You are not India.
No.
You are not Indians.
Nothing wrong with India though. Hey, I love India. Just letting y'all know.
With that, let's jump into this country that is definitely not India.
So Sri Lanka has quite a bit of going on in the way their land operates and holds together. Oh, and the best part, y'all know, man, we got a city called Kandy. Hey!
Candy!
Welcome to the candy shop.
First of all,
He's just,
the
like,
country
so
is an
happy
island
that
nation located in South Asia,
that town's
situated in
called
the Indian
Kandy.
Ocean, south of the Bay of Bengal, just off the southeast coast of India's Tamil Nadu state. The interesting thing is, the country is almost connected to India via the Ramu Setu Bridge, sometimes called Adams Bridge, an
Is it
incredibly
me?
shallow, partially submerged
The way
series
that
of
he's
sandbanks,
talking right
shoals,
now
and
just
islands, only
sounds
about
weird.
100 meters wide, that straddles between India's Pamban Island and Sri Lanka's Mannar Island. The space between Pamban and Mannar, known as the Palk Strait, is only about 25 kilometers wide, and due to the shallow depth, reaching
like
at
they used to
maximum
be
10 meters
connected.
deep, this hinders all large-scale cargo ships from passing through from the Gulf of Mannar in the south to the Palk Bay in the north. At one point, this shallow channel was reportedly passable on foot until a cyclone in 1480 destroyed what little land was above water. Today, any maritime trade must either go completely
Cyclones
around
suck,
Sri
bro.
Lanka, otherwise land or air transport is the only way around. In any case, the capital is Sri Jayawardenepura Kotte, a neighborhood within the largest metropolitan city of Colombo. Colombo is often mistaken or just default called the capital because it's
Bro, I
easier
thought
to
that was
say,
just,
but
like,
nope, to be fair,
field.
it's Sri Jayawardenepura Kotte. The
Bro,
country
no,
is
you
divided
can
into
say,
9
like,
provinces,
random.
each with their own little flag, and the 9 provinces are further divided into 25 districts. The country has 5 international airports, and of course the biggest and busiest one is in Colombo, Bandaranaike International Airport. In addition though, the country has 20 waterdromes, or airports for seaplanes, planes throughout the coasts and interior of the country. They are all operated by Sri Lanka Airlines domestic branch called Sri Lankan Air Taxi, with its hub at Colombo's Kalani River
Air Taxi.
Heliagoda Waterdrome. From there, the
Ironic.
port of Colombo is not only the largest port of the
Airport.
country, but also the largest transshipment hub in South Asia. The country has a very extensive rail network that reaches almost every part of the country except the sparsely populated southeast, which also has the Yala National Park that no roads or towns can be built on. The rails have three main lines:
So you
the
gotta
Colombo
walk there.
operating region lines in the southwest, the Anuradhapura operating region lines in the north and northeast, and the Nawala Pitia operating region lines in the central highlands. Here you can reach the highest destinations of the country, like the famous city of Kandy.
The literal Candy Kingdom, and that's for the Westerners. But I'm gonna say it like Nuara Raja. Candy is called Nuara, so we say Nuara Raja.
Oh, and also, Janelle, I heard something about the word
Sounds
hotel.
Portuguese.
It means something different in
Alright.
Sri Lanka. Explain about that.
It's so funny that you caught that. So hotel is it could be your sandwich shop, man.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh yeah, there's a hotel over there.
So if I go to Sri Lanka and I ask for a hotel, you could point me to a cafe.
Depends on what you're looking
That's so
for
weird.
and whom you ask.
You have to be
You know-
specific.
Yeah.
Now, in Sri Lanka, you're going to see a lot of past and present. For example, of course, you have the metropolitan layout of skyscrapers and towers in Colombo or Negombo. But then right in the middle of the city, you'll find statue after statue of Buddha
Yeah.
and centuries-old
Yeah.
traditional
Oh my God, it's early
dagobas, I
knowledge.
think. That's what I heard. What are they called?
Oh, it's called Bodhia. You know, you're
Bodhia.
talking about the half dome, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's the
The
Bodhia.
shrine thing, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Bodhia?
Bodhia.
Janelle, thank you for correcting me. Oh, and all over it, you'll see tanks or huevas, I think they're called. They were built by...
Man, y'all, he's blind. He said vavas. It's called a vava, you know?
Vava.
Vava.
Veva.
Va.
Ve.
Va.
Va. Now explain what is a veva.
So that's a man-made, pretty much a lake, and they're all over Sri Lanka, man. Depending on the kingdom, you know, each and every single king, Parakrama Bahu, I
I'm
think
so sorry.
That's what I have written down. Yep, the
Yep.
large.
That's
Yep,
what
and he
happens
built the
when
largest
a
one.
highway's
The
like
Parakrama
right next to you.
Yeah, he's good.
Samudra.
yes, Parakrama Samudra. Damn.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and fun fact, under that king, Sri Lanka actually for short periods of time actually kind of took over parts of South India and what is now Myanmar. But
Yeah.
it wasn't exactly
That's good.
colonizing. It was kind of more like this. We are best friends. Yeah. I am the new king, and I'm gonna tax the out of my own people and kill trading envoys from Sri Lanka.
Yeah, we can't have that,
Man,
so...
then
Okay,
sounding
so your old king
like
is
the king
dead,
stage
and we've been
makes it,
managing
like,
you
10
guys
times
for a
funnier.
while,
I don't
but
know
now we're gonna elect a new king. This is the new king!
Hey Sri Lanka, the Chola Empire is like really attacking us hard. A little help?
Sure. Well, we defeated the enemy, but your king is dead. I guess we'll manage things here until we can find a new king for you.
It's so cheesy.
Okay, I found you a new king.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? It's kind of like they could have colonized Myanmar and South India, but we're like, it's easier if we just like raise up a king that would be compliant with our side.
In any case, Sri Lanka has so many projects going on. Colombo has the international financial city. And in the south, you have the controversial Hambantota Harbor, the second largest port in the country, which is leased out to China for 99 years.
We've discussed this before, but in case you missed it, basically, often my Indian subscribers kind of describe the scenario
China.
like this.
Oh, hey, Pakistan.
Hey, India.
Who
What do you
builds
have
stuff?
there?
Oh, I'm building a port
Pompeo,
on Gwadar.
okay.
Oh, cool.
take port.
Pretty big.
Yeah, it's being funded by the Chinese.
Oh, what have you got there, Myanmar?
I am building a port and an oil line in Kakpu.
I feel like you're gonna
Oh,
explain
and
what
it's
I
also
just
being
said.
financed by
I
the
don't even know
Chinese for the
what
Belt
was
Road
going on.
Initiative.
Oh, jeez. What about you, Bangladesh? Wait, don't tell me.
Oh, you mean Sonadia Port? No, I scrapped that plan with China a long time ago.
Oh,
Instead, I'm going for Matabari Port. Oh, because it's funded by the Japanese.
ah.
Because Chittagong was already taken by the Chinese.
What?
By the way, guys, this is my buddy Diogo visiting from Brazil.
Hi, guys.
So yeah, when Sri Lanka
Brazil.
is also in that game, India's kind of
Well,
like...
they always got like Diego.
But moving on!
Sri Lanka is a
without
land full of
Diego,
mystic
no,
sites.
Diogo.
They have 8 UNESCO heritage sites, right? 6 man-made and 2 natural. Tourism is a huge part of our country, baby.
Apart from the UNESCO sites, here's Antoinette explaining a few more extra sites that you could check out in Sri Lanka.
Hi guys,
Yeah.
I'm Antoinette, coming to you from Quebec, Canada. Alright, there are so many temples and ruins, some of the most notable ones being the Buddha Tooth Relic Temple in Kandy, Sima Maleka Temple in Barra Lake, Hindu temples in Jaffna and Trincomalee, like the Nalur Kandaswamy Kaval Temple, and the Ritigala Buddhist
Oh, it
Monastery
was,
ruins. You have other places
too many
such as the
designs,
Commonwealth
bro.
War Cemetery in
This is-
Kandy, the National
oh,
Museum
so
of
much.
Colombo, the Ella Tea Plantations, the Lotus Tower in Colombo, St. Lucia's Cathedral, the Nine Arch Bridge, the beaches in Hikkaduwa and Tanga, the Jaya Shri Mahabodhi, the oldest known planted tree in the world, Adam's Peak, which has a Shri Prada or the sacred footprint. Thank you so much, and I hope you get the chance to visit Sri Lanka one day.
And of course, it is said Sri Lanka
Sure,
has
bro.
the highest waterfall density in the
I
world.
would like
Baker's
to
Waterfall,
visit Sri Lanka.
Bopatella, Ravanella, just to name you a few.
And that brings us to the next segment, the...
Yeah,
So as the 25th largest island on Earth, baby, in a tropical climate, Sri Lanka can hold its ground in maintaining a unique biosphere.
Yes, and one thing you'll notice, though, is that the element of water
His
is a constant
poses, though,
theme
was
for
like-
almost everything in Sri Lanka.
For one, being situated in the center of the Indian plate gives them the lucky advantage of not dealing with any earthquakes or volcanoes, and also, the country has somewhere around 60 main offshore islands, the largest being Mannar Island, which connects to the Ramsetu Bridge. The islands go all the way off to Kachativu Island, the westernmost point of the country. From there, the country has a unique topographical layout. There are 40 low-lying lagoons and mangrove systems covering much of the coasts at about 7,000 hectares in area. This is known as the coastal belt, aka the lowest parts of the country. The largest system in the north on the Jaffna Peninsula with the Jaffna Lagoon that extends into the Palk Bay. Now, as mentioned, many of the inland bodies of water are man-made, and the largest being
I
the
think
dual
you heard
complex
that.
Kalabalau Reservoir found
think
near
that's
the
from
center
the
of the
roof.
country. It was actually built by King
It's either that
Datusena
or
in
under
the
my
5th
bed.
century AD. From there,
Hoping it's
inland,
the
you
first
reach
one.
the plains, which make up the majority of the country's surface area, ranging from about 30
Half
to
of me is
200
kinda
meters above
glad
sea
I'm
level.
going
This
back
is where the
on
majority of
Sunday.
the nation's agriculture and forests are situated
Yep.
and are fed by 103 rivers,
That
the
was-
longest one being
that
the
scared me.
Mahaweli, which flows over 200 miles or 335 kilometers from the highest
go
region of the
back to
country, the Central
learn
Highlands,
geography.
all the way down to Kodiyar Bay near the city of Trincomalee. The Central Highlands, found in the south central part of the country, which are also in themselves a protected World Heritage Site, is also where you can find the tallest peak, Piduru Talagala, at over 2,500 meters above sea level. And finally, due to the topographic layout of Sri Lanka, the country has two climate zones. The plains and valleys of the north, northwest, and southeast are known as the
The
dry
mountainous.
zones, classified as tropical
Mountainous.
savannas
The
with
blue
shrub
ones, the
forests,
mountainous.
bushes, and even cacti in some of the driest areas. Yet in the highlands and valleys of the southwest, you have the wet zones that receive nearly twice as much rainfall annually, usually in the monsoon season from October to January.
Speaking of water though, Sri Lanka
Bro.
is heavily powered by water,
Wet
as in
season
over 1/5
every
of the
single
country is
time
covered
where
by
I'm here,
dams
bro.
and hydropower.
Economically
Except for
speaking,
today,
Sri
it
Lanka
was
has
raining.
always been a major trading hub, once being the crown jewel of the spice trade, and with the highest literacy rate in South Asia at somewhere
Yeah.
around 95%,
Yeah.
they have top-notch labor force.
Yo, that's why we are hard workers. Tea and textiles usually come to mind when discussing resources and production. Sri Lanka
Barbs.
is currently the fourth largest tea
favor.
producer and largest tea
more of this
exporter
guy.
in the world, beating out
We need more
Kenya
of this
and their
guy.
most famous domestic brand, Dilma. I got Dilma at the house. I had Dilma before I came. Now, that kind of came out weird. And the country has about 900 apparel factories, exporting mainly to Europe and the USA for companies like Victoria's Secret, Liz Claiborne, and even Tommy Hilfiger.
In addition, their mining sector is world-renowned. They even have the world's largest blue sapphire, the Star of Adam. So many colors within this country, and one thing that's even more colorful is the wildlife.
Yeah.
And with that, here is
I miss
Gary
wildlife,
Harlow
too.
with wildlife.
Blimey! Look at this puppy right here. The breed is bird. Now, it's no surprise that tropical island
I am
of Sri
offended
Lanka, nearly a fifth of
because he
all
didn't say
flora and
kiwi,
fauna are endemic,
and I
like
love
the
kiwis.
national tree Ceylon
And he
iron.
also
The
has an
country has
Australian
over
accent,
25
so I don't know
national
how I didn't get
parks,
it right.
many with their own specialty. Like Delft Island is one of the only few places in the world with wild ponies. Don't ride the ponies. The largest parks, though,
Sorry.
are Wilpatu and Yala. In these parks lie some of the
Yala.
most fascinating mammal species, like the purple-faced
First and
langur, the
last
Sri
time I'll say
Lankan
that.
sloth bear, the grizzled giant squirrel, and the two animals that are sometimes considered national
Yeah,
animals, the Sri Lankan elephant and leopard. In fact, Sri Lanka is the largest elephant density in South Asia and has the largest elephant orphanage in the world at Pinawala. Birds are very prevalent here too. Some consider the Sri Lankan jungle fowl the national bird. And finally, the south
Bro, that's
coast
like-
of Sri Lanka
that's
is
a rooster
famous for
for
being the
mutating
best
right
spot
there,
to not
bro.
only see blue whales, but if you're daring enough, you can actually swim with them. And speaking of swimming with whales, I gotta catch a wave and surf on out of here. This is how you surf in Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Gary.
Yes, whales, the ocean, once again, the element of water. You've probably seen those images of stilt fishermen from National Geographic, right? Yep, that's the Sri Lanka.
Oh, and speaking of seafood,
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me on. I am so excited to be here to talk about one of my favorite topics, Sri Lankan food. So seafood plays a huge role in our cuisine. In addition, did you know that cinnamon actually originated in Sri Lanka? And no shocker, we are the #1 export of cinnamon around the world. There's about 10 different varieties and all of them slightly different in profile, but so good. So I want to get to the list of foods, starting with jaggery and lump rice and hoppers and string hoppers and vada and puttu and coconut milk rice, more affectionately known as kiribat, with some spicy sambal and some hot milk tea in the mornings is the perfect breakfast item. Egg kotroti or vegetable kotroti, and my personal favorite, mutton kotroti. So good. We have the cashew curry, we have the breadfruit curry, we have Jaffna style nanda curry, also known as crab curry. Sri Lanka is also known for the famous king coconut, but what it's really used to make is a popular coconut liquor. So excited to be on, so excited to be sharing such an amazing topic with you all, and thanks so much for having me. Have a good one.
Oh, Sri Lankan crab curry. You know.
Now, you guys know me. I love jackfruit. You guys in the Bangladeshis do it really well.
Oh, yeah, man.
Well, clearly Sri Lankans are definitely great cooks. And there's a lot of other great things, too, that Sri Lankans are known for, which brings us to the next part, So I asked you guys, what does it mean to be Sri Lankan? And here's some things you guys, the Sri Lankan geographers, have said.
Sri Lankans are very hardworking people. We faced many bad situations in this country. Also, we do not hesitate to help each other when there is a bad situation in our country.
Being Sri Lankan is a blessing. We come from such a small country full of diversity and many ethnic groups. And being Sri Lankan, more myself, a Sri Lankan Muslim, we've been here for so many years, so many centuries. I hope people learn from this video that Sri Lanka is the best place in the world.
I think that the real beauty of Sri Lanka lies within our multicultural, our multi-religious and our multi-ethnic communities. That's what makes Sri Lanka a special country.
Being of Sri Lankan Tamil descent, it means being proud and grateful to my mother, my father, my grandparents, and my aunts and uncles for protecting me and my cousins from the horrors of the Civil War that raged on for decades, due to their perseverance, and that's something that I will carry for the rest of my life.
So, Janelle, in your opinion, what does it mean to be Sri Lankan?
It is to be able to uphold all the values and everything that my parents have taught me. So there's tiny little nuances. There's like we would actually go down on our knees and touch the feet of my parents, and we would bow them. Depends on where you grew up. The culture gives you an identity.
Right, because there's a lot of different types of Sri Lankans out there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yo, you could be Sri Lankan.
Who knows?
If you're Sri Lankan, can he be Sri Lankan?
I'll just put this on.
Yo, I used to wear this, and we eat with our hands too. We don't use fork and
spoon. Oh no, yeah, that's the best way. You gotta feel the food.
Hey. See, I told you he could be Sri Lankan.
Anyway, with that, let's go to the graph.
First of all, the country has a population of about 22 million people, and they are the oldest democracy in Asia since 1948. The country is primarily made up of the Sinhala at somewhere around 75%, whereas the majority of the rest of the population is made up primarily of Tamils divided into 3 groups: Sri Lankan Tamils at a little over 11%, the Moors at about 9%, and the Indian Tamils at about 4%. From there, the small remaining populace is made up of various people groups like the Burghers, the Malays, the Vedas, Chinese, and so on.
Burgers?
Yeah, we'll talk about the burgers later. They use the Sri Lankan rupee as their currency. They use the types D, G, and M plug outlets, and they
didn't use it. You didn't make it.
Yes, sir.
Now, of course, due to the demographic structure, Sinhala, an Indo-Aryan language, and Tamil, a Dravidian language, two completely unintelligible languages, are co-official in Sri Lanka.
However, the prevalence of each one is concentrated in their respective regions. Tamil mostly in the north and northeast, and Sinhala in the center, southeast, and west coast.
Nonetheless, official documents must be available in both languages.
Yes.
And wow, they both have incredibly good-looking scripts. Just look at those curves and diacritic vowel indicators. Gotta love me some good Abagida.
Yeah, that was weird. But the point is, yes, the scripts look pretty cool.
English is also a nationally recognized language. Now, not everybody can still speak fluent English, but I'll tell you a few things that they know for sure, though. They know Bob Marley, right? They know 50 Cent. They know Coca-Cola.
That's all they need.
That's all they need. baby.
all they
I mean,
need.
50
what's
cent
crazy
Coca-Cola.
is like I've been to houses where they don't speak a word of English,
But they memorize the whole rap.
But they know the raps. I'm like, you really spitting, but you can't even speak a word of English. But like they know Peter Andre, Mysterious Girl. Yo, they know all of it. I'm like, how?
You give a kid a song, they're just gonna absorb it.
I suppose my
All they
people
know
just
is 90
soak,
songs,
like
huh?
they're like a sponge. I mean, woo!
In any case, prior to the British, the Portuguese, Dutch, and almost French all took a jab at trying to control Sri Lanka. This is also partially why you see so many Sri Lankans with Western names and last names, especially with Portuguese. In fact, the three most common last names in Sri Lanka are Pereira, Fernando, and De Silva.
Yeah, man, that's so funny because as I was growing up, I read books and there was Fernandos and Pereiras and De Silvas. I'm like,
But it's
but
Sri
you
Lanka.
look like me.
Yeah.
What's this?
Now, faith-wise, the majority of Sri Lankans, almost exclusively to the Sinhala group, are Buddhist, belonging to the Theravada branch. In fact, today Sri Lankan Sinhalese are the only
I feel like
non-racially
someone in the
East
back
Asian
said yes,
Buddhist
sir.
majority ethnic group in the modern world. Basically, a country of brown Buddhists. It was actually brought in over 2,000 years ago by the missionary Mahinda from the Ashoka Empire and mentioned in the Tripitaka. Sri Lanka has the longest continuous history of Buddhism out of any predominantly Buddhist nation on earth. But how did you grow up? What are you?
So I was born and raised a Catholic, and at some point in time,
But you're Sinhalese, right?
Yes, I'm 100% Sinhalese, but I have tons of Buddhist friends, tons of Tamil friends, tons of Muslims, right? Nobody was trying to impose their will on me.
You guys are just Sri Lankans.
That's exactly how I see it too.
And by the way, Buddhism, they take it seriously in the country. It's not a gimmick. What's the one worst thing you can do while visiting Sri Lanka?
Oh, hello, young tourists. How are you enjoying Sri Lanka?
I just love the Buddha. You know, I took all these pictures in front of Buddha, and I want to buy a Buddha for my living room. Best thing, I have this little Buddha tattoo, and I just love that he's so
Okay,
jolly.
I'm calling the police.
If you have a tattoo of Buddha, either get a laser removal or never show it if visiting Sri Lanka. It's considered incredibly offensive and can literally get you in trouble.
Hinduism, though, actually predates Buddhism in Sri Lanka, and the Hindu community is almost exclusively tied to the Tamil group. Specifically, Shaivism, which is the branch that predominantly worships Shiva and venerates Shiva devotees like Ravana. That's kind of the story of Ravana is like a big deal in Sri Lanka, apparently.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Apart from the Hindus and the Buddhists, there's also the Muslim minority, 90% of whom are Tamil-speaking people called the Moors.
Although if you ask them, some may or may not actually identify as being ethnically Tamil. It's confusing, but yeah.
There is also a noticeable Christian community.
Some sociologists speculate that Christianity may
Europeans,
actually have predated colonialism. It's an interesting
discovery.
theory.
There are about 40,000 people. You have the burghers. There are the people that are essentially the Euro-Asian descendants mixed between Europeans and Sri Lankans. They developed a unique fusion culture that mixes Europe with South Asia.
And finally, you have the indigenous Vedas, only numbering today at about 6,000 people. They are considered the original inhabitants of Sri Lanka, predating anyone.
Now, traditionally, they followed a form of animism, and only about 300 people speak the Veda language today. In Sri Lanka, the one thing you'll notice
We Sri Lankans, we have really long names. For example, one of the most famous athletes, Warnakula Surya, Patabandiji, Shanta, Joseph, Shaminda, Mas. The reason we have really long names, the king used to give a title, the occupation of your ancestors, where you're coming from, which part in Sri Lanka.
So with names, you can clearly tell that Sri Lanka has a lot of backstory. Part of that backstory involves the obvious dichotomy between the Sinhalese and the Tamil people groups. This is probably the biggest elephant in the room that cannot be avoided. Yes, there was a civil war between the two.
It dates back to 1983. So to make a long story short, it goes that the Tamils wanted a place of origin.
So essentially, it basically boiled down to the government versus the Tamil Tigers. There was a move for a separate land for the Tamil minority. Over 100,000 people died or disappeared, and over 300,000 people were in camps or internally displaced peoples. Now, when you ask like who started it or what, it all depends on who you ask, and there's always going to be a biased answer when it comes to that. You know, there's
It's
no
only right.
And you were there kind of during the whole craziness.
I was, and it's so crazy, man. My mom was pregnant with my brother one time, just to give you some contrast, and it was only a month after she stopped using the train, there was a bomb.
Oh.
That was such a small incident. These bombs were going on everywhere. I'm just glad it's over.
So post-war, how would you say, is there generally kind of like a let's move forward feeling in Sri Lanka right now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's flooded with foreigners, and we obviously need the international revenue coming in.
Right.
We come from a place where they have a 2,000-year-old written history.
You can't hide that.
That's true.
Well, that was quite a discussion. So much has happened, and they just want to move forward as best they can. And one way they move forward is with sports. And with that, here's Art with the sports part.
Yeah.
Whoa, this is a cricket ball, and guess what? We're gonna talk about it. Now, most textbook sources will tell you that the national sport is volleyball, and yes, technically it is. However, cricket is often considered the most celebrated and practiced sport. There have been a lot of records in cricket, and even have the highest team score in test cricket at 952. I'm gonna pretend like I actually know what that means. They won the World Cricket Cup in 1996, making it the only Sri Lanka sport
Sorry,
that
bro.
has ever been
I
crowned
watch
a
cricket
world champion.
sometimes
They even have
'cause I
their
get
own version
bored.
of March Madness, in which parades and
no
performances
idea,
dedicated to the opening cricket matches
March
of
Match
college cricket
fever.
season. There's Sri Lankan style tailgating, after parties, drunken fights between fans and dancing. It's that crazy. See, you don't see that kind of treatment with volleyball in Sri Lanka. Otherwise, of course, cricket isn't the only thing going on in Sri Lanka. We have rugby, netball,
Come on,
and
it's
Australian
volleyball.
rules football, which are all growing in a lot of popularity.
I don't
Their
even
women's
watch
netball
volleyball,
team
right?
has won the Asian
I
Netball
probably shouldn't be
Championship
saying
4
anything,
times.
but-
4 times.
For Art.
Everyone in the country knows this lady, known as the Asian Black Mare, who won the only Olympic medal for the country.
Technically, there was another medal when they were under British Sri Lanka.
They have 2 native styles of martial arts, China Di, which is like Kung Fu, but more focused on grappling, and Ang Ampora, which is both a body combat and weaponry style that uses things like knives, swords, and whip blade. And finally, this is not so much a sport, but rather a recreational activity. Sri Lankans are really good at tabletop game Karam. Strangely
fun.
enough, there's literally a World
Looks
Cup
fun.
for this game, and Sri Lanka usually dominates and consistently holds a world champion
Cup.
title in both men and women's divisions. They even hold the dog division as well. He wants All right, me and Tarch are gonna go play some.
Thank you, Art.
We have this pillow fight, which is like
Pillow fights.
Pillow fight. So it's you're sitting on a log, and you just knock each other out until one of them falls down.
And yeah, there's so much other stuff going on with Sri Lanka's
feel like
culture.
someone
Here
got
to explain a
knocked
little bit
out
more,
from
here
that.
is Hannah.
It's good to be back.
Random
Sri
Hannah.
Lanka's origins are documented in the Mahavamsa, the Great Chronicle, and Kulavamsa, the Lesser Chronicle, with the first king in the 5th century BC to the British occupation in 1825. Within that time, it's also speculated that Sri Lanka might have the world's first hospital. And of course, with religion comes religious festivals and celebrations. Sri Lanka is actually the country with the second most public holidays after Cambodia. Every full moon, or Poya, is considered a holiday. Each full moon represents a different story for Buddha. For the Hindu community, there are tons of distinct festivals and celebrations too. The most notable one probably being the Kavadi, or burden dance. Viewer discretion advised. This is a ceremonial sacrifice and offering practiced by Hindu devotees of Lord Murugan, the god of war, and the goddess Kali, the destroyer. Worshippers honor the deities by enduring pain in a variety of ways. And for the extreme, some may receive body piercings and suspensions by hooks and a chosen stone on the back. If you're into art, you'll
Girls
be
get
pleased to find tons
piercings.
of
I don't
painted
even
and
think
murals dating back
like
to the 15th
stabbing
century. And just because it's kind of
is
my
like
thing,
pain.
here's a bit of
Unless
cinematic
unless
backstory
it's Spain,
dating back
'cause
to
I
the
never
first
get
Sinhalese
piercings.
film in 1947. Sri Lanka has seen its moments in the entertainment industry. Sri Lanka was also the setting for many Hollywood blockbusters like
Shollywood?
The Bridge Over River Kwai and Indiana Jones' Temple of Doom. But if you guys want to learn more about film and culture and history through
Filmography.
film of Sri Lanka, go follow the Filmography Now YouTube channel. Hannah has a spin-off. And in these films, there's a lot of historical music.
Bruh.
And with that, is Keith even here? I really hope he's not.
Music of Sri Lanka. One thing is for sure, Sri Lanka loves drums. Everything from the
Basically not
Udeki
here.
drum to the
He's
demon
okay.
drum. The
He's
country is known
like
for having 3
spiritually.
unique dance styles:
almost
the
said
low
physically.
country dance, the devil dance, and the candy style. There was a period in time when African slaves came over and played a major role in creating Bela.
Baila. It's okay, Keith. Just keep going.
This is probably the most popular music style in Sri
quality,
Lanka,
too.
and it's played at everything from special occasions, weddings. This dude is probably the most well-known guy who helped create Bela. From there, Sri Lanka evolved its music industry into the 20th century and the 21st century. Sri Lankan artists and bands arose through the times, from radio There will be a list right here. Presenteth list.
Oh,
Yes,
man.
even English female rapper MIA is Sri Lankan. Yes. If you're Sri Lankan, let us know in the comment section down below what you think should be included in what we should know about Sri Lankan music. By the way, Hannah's new YouTube channel, Filmography Now. It's kind of cool. You should probably go check it out, even though I hate Hannah.
Thank you, Keith.
This is my Tupac of Sri Lanka. That's Clarence
At
Vijayawardena.
least
He
there's,
is
like,
considered
some
the king of Sri Lankan pop
peace
music. And then you got
negotiation.
the Amaradevas,
I need
Nanda
to calm
Malini.
down.
I'm telling y'all,
When I
man,
get
we
back.
still haven't even tapped into 1% of the total potential of our music.
As you can see, Sri Lanka has a lot to show the world with their culture and tradition. And with that, let's see how the rest of the world responds to Sri Lanka's colors in our final segment,
Friend zone.
Much of Sri Lanka's history
What I
was
always get
already
all the
intertwined with international
Friend zone.
interaction.
You don't get the nickname the Pearl of the Indian Ocean by accident.
For one, Sri Lanka has stated multiple times that it takes specific non-aligned foreign policies and does not take sides with major world powers and pursues friendship with all. On that note, much of the government might say China is close due to the many loans and investments that have been given to them. However, like many other small developing nations, Sri Lankans are keeping a close eye on these acts. Many Sri Lankans move to Australia for studies and work, especially in Melbourne, which has the largest Sri Lankan community out of any city in Australia. Indonesia and Singapore offer visa-free visits to Sri Lankans, and many of the Tamil Sri Lankans have family with the Tamil community in Singapore. Now, you would think that as their closest neighbor, relations with India would be super close, but it's a little complicated. It's more like a love-hate relationship that they've had for thousands of years. Yes, in a sense, both the Sinhalese and Tamils have roots in India, and yes, they owe the introduction of Buddhism to India via the Ashoka Empire, and yes, India tried to help sort out the civil war, even though Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated by the Tamil Tigers on the process. Nonetheless, much of the diplomacy is rooted in aid that India provides, and of course, Sri Lankans love things like Bollywood films and Indian cultural imports. They just, really hate the Indian cricket team. Pakistan has always been a closer ally, as Sri Lanka kind of acted like a transit point between West and East Pakistan, which is now Bangladesh, during the Indo-Pak wars of the 60s and 70s, as Indian airspace was closed to them. Pakistan, in return, has supplied much of Sri Lanka's armed forces with military equipment and has helped them during civil war times. In the end, though, interestingly enough, one country that seems to pop out in many Sri Lankans' minds when asked which country is closest to them would be the Maldives. As island nations in the Indian Ocean heavily dependent on maritime trade and culture, the two instantly click on almost any diplomatic level. The heads of states have visited each other to discuss bilateral relations and interests. The Maldivian Defense Force is trained by Sri Lanka's military. Over half of Maldives' exports go to Sri Lanka. Many Maldivian tour operators are located in Sri Lanka with travel packages, including both countries, and they even share an underwater fiber optic cable for joint telecommunication service. Overall, these two countries work together very well and understand each other probably better than anyone else.
All right, and in conclusion, obviously, Janil, I think you should take this. I'm out.
So something that I want y'all to know, man, our bounce back game is super strong. People try to take over our country thousands of years ago. And then we had civil war going on. The tsunami hit. We bounced back from that too. And it's depicted in so many areas of who we are. We never stood down. We always rose.
Well said, Janil. I love that. All right, and with that, what's the next country?
This guy right
We're
here.
gonna talk about Sudan, baby.
Next one coming up.
Get ready.
Stay tuned.
Sudan. And I'm kind of waiting for South Sudan because, like, the recent civil war just ended, like, earlier 2020. But that guy, Sri Lanka, I'm personally asking him, actually, run for president for Sri Lanka, bro. He would become the greatest president ever in Sri Lankan history. That's my quote of the day. Anyways, guys, that's gonna be it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, like and subscribed. Really does appreciate it. Anyways, guys, have a good night, I guess. It's like 2:47 in the morning. Yeah, see you guys next time.